Yoko was washing her hair in the river when a mischievous little monkey climbed onto her back and started fooling around. As Yoko turned her head, revealing her breathtakingly beautiful face, her lover nearby hurried over to her side. He gently and lovingly stroked her long hair. Blushing, Yoko ran toward the riverbank, and the two chased each other, laughing, before tumbling into the grass. The young man raised his flute and played a soft, lingering melody. Yoko gazed at him with eyes full of affection, and even tied a strand of her hair around his waist. But their tender moment was shattered by a sudden angry shout. Yoko's father, Ryoshu, stormed over in a rage, and roughly tore down her hair. He kicked the lover away like a toad dreaming of eating swan meat, then dragged Yoko home by force. Ryoshu was a famous painter known far and wide, and believed a poor village boy was unworthy of his daughter. Yoko was locked inside a dark storage room. Her lover refused to give up and knelt to beg, only to be doused head to toe in paint by Ryoshu. In the end, the young man slung his pack over his shoulder, played his flute one last time, and left the village. Not long after, Ryoshu realized that Yoko was gone as well. She had run away to search for her lover everywhere, but the mischievous little monkey darted into a manor, and Yoko chased after it without hesitation. There, a feudal lord happened to be enjoying himself in the estate. At a single glance, he took a fancy to the young and beautiful Yoko. The lord sent his men to summon Yoko's father, Ryoshu, declaring that Yoko would become his 80th concubine. Furious, Ryoshu kicked over a table on the spot. He didn't want his daughter marrying a poor boy, but he wanted even less for her to become some lord's damned concubine. He went to kneel before the lord, begging him to spare his daughter. But how could the lord care about a mere painter? So Ryoshu displayed his extraordinary painting skills. The painting depicted a commoner beaten to death, yet under Ryoshu's brush, the figure looked terrifyingly alive. The agony frozen on the man's face unsettled the lord. That night, he was plagued by nightmares, feeling as though the dead man's vengeful spirit was haunting him. Wherever he went, the ghost followed. The lord spent the night trembling in fear. By morning, he agreed to let Yoko go, on the condition that Ryoshu personally destroy the painting. For Yoko's sake, Ryoshu tearfully destroyed his life's work. He thought he could finally take his daughter away, but the lord shamelessly went back on his word, boasting that he would bed Yoko that very night. The lord clutched his newly taken concubine, ordering her to serve him as he bathed. Yoko was forced into a thin red robe. She kept her eyes lowered, refusing to look at the lord, scrubbing him as if he were nothing but a block of wood. But the lord could no longer restrain himself. Just then, the sounds of fighting outside saved Yoko. A band of mountain brigands stormed into the lord's estate. Even the lord's hat was shot off by an arrow. But in the end, the bandits were no match for his soldiers. Ryoshu wandered across the battlefield, and unexpectedly found Yoko's lover. Sadly, he was gravely wounded and near death. With his last breath, the young man handed his flute to Ryoshu. That night, after suppressing the bandits, the lord was in high spirits, and eagerly went to Yoko's chamber. Seeing him, Yoko trembled and hid beneath the quilt. The lord yanked the quilt aside, only to be met with a horrifying sight. The ghost of her lover stood guard beside Yoko. Terrified, the lord fled in panic. He believed this was yet another trick by Ryoshu, though Ryoshu himself knew nothing of it. He guessed that the young man's spirit lingered, because he could not let go of Yoko. But a ghost could not remain in the human world forever. This realization sparked an idea in Ryoshu's mind. He decided to paint a picture to protect his daughter, but for the painting to hold power, the scene had to be something he had witnessed with his own eyes. So he bound his young apprentice, and released a snake to attack him. While crouching nearby to observe closely, he etched every detail into his mind. Soon, one snake no longer felt sufficient, so he shattered jars and released more serpents. The apprentice struggled in sheer terror, but in the end, he was bitten to death by the snakes. Ryoshu tried desperately to paint the scene at once, yet his mind refused to settle. For his daughter, he had turned himself into a demon. How could such a filthy painting ever be shown to her? Just then, a maid was leading Yoko to the lord's chamber. Terrified, Yoko hid behind a folding screen, as the lord impatiently reached out for her. As they were about to reach the bed, the little monkey suddenly leapt into the lord's arms. Seizing the moment, Yoko blew out the candles and ran. But she had no idea where to flee. Suddenly, a masked man in black seized her. Yoko harbored deep hatred toward her father. It was he who had torn her apart from her lover, and forced her into becoming the lord's concubine. Now that her lover was dead, Yoko's heart was utterly empty. She refused her father's chance to escape together, unaware that an even greater despair awaited her. The next day, the lord summoned Ryoshu, ordering him to paint a hell scroll, so that every demon of hell would protect him. Ryoshu said plainly that his paintings only held power if he witnessed the scene in person. If the lord wanted the painting, he would have to let Ryoshu see someone burned alive from start to finish. Ryoshu hoped this would deter him, but he gravely underestimated the lord's cruelty. The lord prepared a cart piled high with firewood, saying that someone inside would soon be burned to death. To Ryoshu's horror, the person inside was Yoko. She was tightly bound in iron chains. Ryoshu lost his mind on the spot. He screamed curses at the heartless lord, and was struck in the head in response. Yoko stared on without expression. At the lord's command, countless torches were hurled at the cart. Engulfed in flames, Yoko writhed in agony. With her final breaths, she cursed the lord, swearing that the suffering she endured would be repaid to him 100-fold. Soon, her life faded away. Ryoshu rolled on the ground in unbearable grief, while the lord trembled in fear. The next day, the lord returned Yoko's ashes to Ryoshu. Strangely, at that very moment, Ryoshu hanged himself at home. A servant rushed in to report Ryashu's death. The Lord laughed and turned to look, only to find that Ryashu, who had been before his eyes a second earlier, had vanished into thin air. He drew his sword in terror and slashed wildly, shattering Yoko's urn of ashes. This sent the Lord into even greater panic. He raced straight to Ryashu's house without stopping. There, he finally saw the hell scroll he had long desired. But inside the burning cart in the painting was none other than himself. The Lord covered his eyes, afraid to look again. Yet the scene in the painting began to feel real. Scorching flames seemed to close in around him. No matter how he ran or cried for help, no one came. For the rest of his life, he would endure the agony of being burned alive.